Today's book review is on Ender's Game by Orson Scott Card. The book was originally published in 1999. Why is she reviewing such an old book, you may wonder? Well, the truth is, I'm a bit of a sci-fi geek, and I heard this rumor that they were once again talking about making the Ender series into movies. So, I wanted to reread the series. However, it is such a great series that the last person I lent it to never returned it, and I had to go buy the whole thing all over again. I devoured Ender's Game in 3 days, and it is even better than I remembered. Then I sat about thinking of how to do this review. I've had several very good ideas, but my favorite was to play a little game I like to call casting. The great thing about my version of this game is that we're not stuck with the boring limitations of reality. For example, if we wanted, we could cast a young Angelina Jolie as Petra, while having Malcolm McDowell, as he currently is, play Mazer Rackham, and then have Ed Sanders from Sweeney Todd play Peter. But as I got into the game, I hit a huge snag. You see, most of the main characters are young, brilliant boys who are 6 to 11 years old, and are trained in battle school to become the soldiers of tomorrow. Do you know how few talented child actors there are out there? I mean, there are plenty who are good for their age, but to find ones who are truly good? And now I can see why the film has yet to be made. I so do not envy the casting agent on that project. So, with my best idea out the window, I decided that it would be better to simply have an in-depth review of one of the most famous and controversial sci-fi novels of the 21st century. But this book is really big. Even if you haven't heard of it, it is so big that it is required reading in most military training schools. So for those of you who don't know the storyline, let me just give you a brief recap. The story is set in the future. The world has united against a common enemy, the Buggers. And an organization, the IF, is responsible for selecting the brightest young minds and training them in battle school to become the leaders of the third invasion. These children are found using monitors that are attached to all children's heads, allowing the school's finders to see everything they see, hear everything they hear, and feel everything they feel, as if watching this from the child's perspective. After battle school, these children are sent on to advanced schools based on their abilities, such as pre-command school and tactical school. The opening sentence in the book is, "I've watched through his eyes, I've listened through his ears, and I tell you, he is the one," or at least as close to the one as we're going to get. Now, before we go any further, I know what a lot of you are thinking, but keep this in mind. A lot of the examples you're thinking of were created after this book was written. And for those of you who are thinking, keep in mind that the original story that led to Ender's Game was actually published in the 1970s and is a contemporary of those works. Universal truths and fears are universal truths and fears. Although the premise of this book is based on certain universal truths and fears, that is not what this story is truly about. This story is about a young boy who is a genius, trying to navigate his life in the dictates of societal norms and to find out who he really is, not within those norms, but around those norms. It's about a boy. It is that simple. Andrew Ender Wiggins is just a boy. He's put in extraordinary circumstances, and to an extent those circumstances shape what he does, but they do not make up who he is. For me, the story is so translatable. I'm not a genius who the world hopes will someday save them, like Ender. I was not a child prodigy who was mercilessly bullied, like Ender. I was never ripped from my family and everything I knew to be trained at battle school, like Ender. I'm not a boy. But I have had times where people did not understand my logic. I have been bullied. I have had to move and leave friends and a familiar environment behind. I've struggled with my bad behaviors and feared that they would define me, become who I am. I have had family turmoil, sibling rivalry, and great sibling love. I've struggled to be better than I am and been challenged to conform to society's expectations of me. My guess is that most of you have experienced some, if not all of these, yourself. These are the things that those who love this book take from it. Yes, there's this horrifying political aspect that can be reviewed to ad nauseum. Yes, there is this unusual amount of violence, particularly for children so young. Yes, it is hard to fathom that the world could ever become like what Card describes in this series. And yet, take a look at some of the other brilliant sci-fi writers, and then tell me the same thing. The book does give a painful warning of what humanity may become, and those who get most angry by it are probably the type of people we have to fear the most in creating such a world. So, read the book and see where it takes you. I give it a very firm 4.5 out of 5 stars.